The touch that changed everything. She thought she knew loneliness, until she found herself standing in a hospital corridor at 3 in the morning, watching people die behind doors she couldn't open. The fluorescent lights hummed their eternal song, and Camila Torres adjusted her nurse's cap for the 100th time that night, wondering if her hands would ever stop shaking. 20-6 years old, fresh out of nursing school with barely enough experience to fill a coffee cup, and here she was, assigned to the intensive care unit of Memorial Grace Hospital. The weight of responsibility pressed against her chest like a physical thing. She'd grown up in the forgotten neighborhoods of East Los Angeles, where her mother cleaned office buildings at night and her father had disappeared when she was 7. Nursing school had been her escape route, her one chance at a different life. Now, standing in these pristine hallways, she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. The emergency call came at 3:47 a.m. A voice crackled through the overhead speakers. Urgent and clipped. Trauma incoming. Multiple injuries. All available staff to emergency room 3. Camila's feet moved before her brain caught up. She ran alongside seasoned nurses who knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. When she burst through the double doors, the controlled chaos of emergency medicine swallowed her whole. Doctors shouted orders. Monitors beeped their frantic warnings. And in the center of it all, on a blood-soaked gurney, lay a man who looked like he'd been pulled from the wreckage of his own life, even unconscious, even broken. He commanded attention. Dark hair matted with blood, a face carved from granite and determination, expensive clothes, torn and ruined. The paramedics rattled off information as they transferred him to the hospital bed. Car accident on the Pacific Coast Highway. Single vehicle. No other passengers. Blood alcohol, 0. They suspected he'd swerved to avoid something in the road. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, the head surgeon, moved with practiced efficiency. She fired off instructions, and Camila found herself swept into the medical machine. Her training took over. Hands that had been shaking minutes ago now moved with purpose. She connected monitors, prepared blood bags, assisted with intubation. The man's vitals were critical. Internal bleeding, possible brain trauma, broken ribs. He was dying right there under the harsh lights. Something in Camila refused to let that happen. The surgery lasted 7 hours. 7 hours where Camila didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't think about anything except keeping this stranger alive. She watched Dr. Okonkwo work miracles with steady hands and absolute focus. She learned more in those 7 hours than she had in months of classroom study. And when Dr. Okonkwo finally stepped back, sweat on her brow, and announced that the patient was stabilized, Camila felt her knees buckle with relief. "Good work, Torres," Dr. Okonkwo said, stripping off her bloody gloves. "You held steady when it mattered. That takes something special." She paused, studying Camila with those sharp, assessing eyes. "He's going to need intensive monitoring. Round-the-clock care for at least 2 weeks. Someone who actually gives a damn, not just someone going through the motions. You up for it?" Camila blinked. "Me. But I'm still new. Surely someone more experienced should." "Experience doesn't mean caring. I saw how you looked at him during surgery. Like you were personally invested in keeping him alive. That matters more than years of practice sometimes." Dr. Okonkwo softened slightly. "Look, I know it's a big ask, but my instinct says you're right for this. Trust me, I've been doing this long enough to know." So Camila found herself assigned to the private room in the ICU where the mystery patient lay in an induced coma. Machines breathing for him, monitoring every flutter of his damaged heart. Only after he was settled did someone finally mention his name. Daniel Ashford. The name meant nothing to Camila until a nurse whispered it with reverence. The real estate developer, the man who'd transformed downtown Los Angeles over the past decade, the billionaire who appeared in business magazines wearing perfectly tailored suits and an expression of controlled power. The man who never smiled in photographs. Camila looked at him lying there, vulnerable and broken, and couldn't reconcile the images. This wasn't a billionaire. This was just a human being fighting to survive. The first week passed in a blur of medical procedures and careful monitoring. Camila worked 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer. She learned Daniel's rhythms, the way his heart rate fluctuated. The small responses his body gave, even in unconsciousness. She checked his vitals every hour, changed his IV bags, adjusted his position to prevent bed sores, kept his wounds clean and monitored for infection. But it was during the quiet hours, when the hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm, that Camila did something she'd never done before. She talked to him at first, just simple things, explaining what she was doing as she worked. "I'm checking your temperature now. Everything looks good." But gradually, as the days wore on, she found herself sharing more. Stories about growing up in East Law, about her mother who worked 3 jobs but still managed to make sure Camila had books to read, about the neighborhood where gunshots were more common than birdsong, but where people looked out for each other in ways the wealthy neighborhoods never understood. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she whispered one night, adjusting his blankets. "You'll probably live in some mansion in Malibu. Probably have no idea what it's like to count quarters to buy bread. But somehow talking to you makes me feel less alone. Isn't that strange?" His face remained peaceful, unresponsive. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Camila sighed and returned to her charts. On the 9th day, something changed. Camila was checking his reflexes when she noticed his fingers twitch. Not much, just a small movement. But it was there. Her heart jumped into her throat. She immediately called Dr. Okonkwo. Over the next 24 hours, they carefully began reducing the sedation. It was a delicate process, bringing someone back from the edge. Too fast, and the trauma could be overwhelming. Too slow, and other complications could develop. Camila stayed by his side through all of it, monitoring every subtle change. When his eyes finally opened, it was during the early morning hours. Camila had been dozing in the chair beside his bed, exhausted from a double shift. Some instinct made her awake. She opened her eyes to find him looking at her. Those eyes were dark, almost black in the dim light, confused, disoriented, trying to make sense of where he was. Camila immediately stood, her professional training kicking in. "Mr. Ashford, you're in Memorial Grace Hospital. You were in an accident, but you're safe now. Can you hear me? Blink once for yes." He blinked once. Deliberately, relief flooded through her. "Good. That's very good. You're intubated right now, so you can't speak. But we're going to get Dr. Okonkwo and start the process of removing the tube. Just try to stay calm. You're going to be okay." She reached for the call button, but his hand moved. Slowly, with obvious effort, he reached out and touched her wrist. The contact was brief, barely there, but it stopped her. She looked back at him. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. In that gaze, she saw confusion, yes, but also something else. Recognition, maybe? Or gratitude? Or something she couldn't name. The lessons between heartbeats, the removal of the breathing tube, this was a delicate process that took most of the morning. Daniel coughed and struggled, his throat raw from days of intubation. Camila stayed close, offering ice chips and reassurance. When he finally spoke, his voice came out as barely more than a gravel-rough whisper. "You," he managed, his dark eyes finding hers. "I know your voice." Camila felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You've been hearing me talk to you?" "Everything." He coughed again, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "The stories about your mother. The train station where she sold homemade tamales. Your brother who wants to be an engineer? All of it." She had no words. For 9 days she'd poured her life story into what she thought was a void, never imagining he could hear any of it. The embarrassment was crushing. "Don't," Daniel said, reading her expression. "Don't be embarrassed. Your voice was the only thing keeping me tethered. I was drowning in darkness, and you threw me a lifeline without even knowing it." Over the following days, as Daniel's condition improved, their conversations deepened. He told her about growing up with a father who measured worth in dollar signs and a mother who died when he was 12, about building his company from nothing, working construction sites in the brutal summer heat before he had the capital to develop properties himself, about the loneliness that came with success, the way money attracted everyone except those who actually cared about the person behind it. "Everyone wants something from me," he admitted one afternoon, struggling to sit up in bed. Camila immediately moved to help, adjusting his pillows. Business deals, investments, connections. Even my ex-wife married me for the lifestyle, not the man. You're the first person in years who looked at me and saw someone worth saving, not someone worth exploiting. That's not true, Camila protested. I'm sure you have people who care about you. Name one. His challenge hung in the air. Camila opened her mouth and found she couldn't. In 2 weeks, not a single visitor had come. Phone calls went to his assistant, who handled everything with cold efficiency. His hospital room remained empty of flowers, cards, or any evidence that someone out there missed him. The realization broke something in her chest. Here was a man who could buy anything, yet he had nothing that mattered. She understood loneliness, had lived with it her whole life. But at least she had her mother's fierce love and her brother's terrible jokes. Daniel had wealth and emptiness. Then I'll be someone who cares, she said quietly. Not because you're Daniel Ashford, the developer. Because you're Daniel Ashford, the person who told me that terrible joke about the penguin yesterday. He laughed, then winced at the pain it caused his healing ribs. That was a great joke. It was awful. You still laughed, out of pity. Their banter became routine. Camila found herself looking forward to her shifts in a way she never had before. She taught him breathing exercises to strengthen his lungs. He taught her about architecture, describing the buildings he'd designed with a passion that made his entire face transform. She brought him books from the hospital library. He had groceries delivered to her mother's house because he'd heard her mention they were struggling that month. You can't do that, Camila insisted when she found out. It's too much. It's groceries, not a car. And before you argue, consider that I spend more on a single dinner than that entire delivery cost. Let me do this. Let me help the family of the woman who saved my life. 3 weeks into his recovery, Dr. Okonkwo declared Daniel well enough for discharge, but he needed continued care. Physical therapy, wound monitoring, someone to ensure he didn't overdo it during recovery. The hospital could arrange a nursing service, but Daniel refused every option presented. I want Camila, he told Dr. Okonkwo directly. Only her. Dr. Okonkwo looked between them, her expression knowing. Mr. Ashford, Camila is a hospital employee with other patients. Then I'll hire her privately. Triple her salary for 3 months of exclusive care. I have a house in Santa Monica with a guest suite. She'd have complete privacy and every resource she needs. Camila stood frozen as they discussed her like she wasn't there. Part of her knew she should refuse. This crossed professional lines in about a dozen different ways. But another part, the part that had spent weeks learning this man's dreams and fears, wanted to say yes. Can I think about it? She asked. Daniel's expression softened. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Camila, understand something. This isn't about convenience or comfort. It's about trust. You're the only person I trust to take care of me without ulterior motives. The only person who sees me, not my bank account. That night, Camila sat in her tiny apartment, trying to make sense of everything. Her roommate Sophia was blunt as always. A billionaire wants to pay you triple to basically be his private nurse in Santa Monica. What's the question? It feels wrong. Like I'm taking advantage somehow. Taking advantage? He's the one offering. And from what you've told me, the man's alone in the world. Maybe he just needs someone genuine in his life. Maybe you both do. The truth in Sophia's words stung. Camila had been alone for so long, keeping everyone at arm's length because letting people close meant risking the kind of abandonment her father had inflicted. But Daniel was already close. Somehow, without her noticing, he'd slipped past her defenses. She accepted the offer the next morning. Daniel's relief was palpable, transforming his usually controlled features into something open and vulnerable. They set boundaries immediately. Professional hours. Separate living spaces. Clear medical protocols. Camila insisted on all of it, and Daniel agreed to everything without hesitation. I just need you there, he said simply. The rest, we'll figure out as we go. Moving into Daniel's Santa Monica house was surreal. The place was massive, all clean lines and ocean views, but somehow felt empty despite its beauty. No photographs on the walls. No personal touches. Just expensive furniture arranged by some decorator who'd never met the owner. It's beautiful, Camila said politely, setting down her single suitcase in the guest suite that was larger than her entire apartment. It's sterile, Daniel corrected from his wheelchair. He was healing well, but still couldn't walk long distances. I've lived here 5 years and never made it feel like home. Maybe you can help with that too. The first week established their routine. Mornings started with physical therapy exercises. Camila guided Daniel through the movements, her hands steady on his shoulders as he worked to rebuild his strength. She monitored his medications, changed his dressings, and kept detailed charts of his progress. But the evenings were different. After her official duties ended, they'd sit on the deck overlooking the Pacific and just talk. Daniel told her about the buildings he'd designed, was pulling up photos on his tablet and explaining the architectural choices with infectious enthusiasm. Camila shared stories about her patients over the years, the small moments of humanity that made the hard work worthwhile. Why nursing? Daniel asked one evening as the sun set over the water. Because I wanted to help people. Sounds simple, maybe naive, but it's true. Growing up where I did, I saw so much pain. People who couldn't afford basic health care. Kids with asthma who died because their parents couldn't afford inhalers. I thought if I became a nurse, I could make a difference. And do you? Make a difference? Camila considered the question seriously. Sometimes. Not as often as I'd like. The system is broken in so many ways. But every now and then, there's a moment when you know you changed something. When you held someone's hand as they died so they weren't alone, or when you caught a complication early enough to save a life. Those moments make everything else worth it. Daniel reached across the space between their chairs and took her hand. The gesture was simple, but it sent electricity through her entire body. You changed everything for me. You know that, right? I was just existing before the accident. Going through motions. Building things because it's what I do, not because it brought me joy. And then I woke up to your voice and something shifted. Camila's breath caught. Daniel, we should talk about boundaries. I know. You're right. I just needed you to know what you mean to me. He released her hand, but the warmth of his touch lingered. I'll maintain professional distance. I promise. But professional distance became harder to maintain as days turned into weeks. Daniel healed steadily, growing stronger under Camila's careful supervision. He started walking without assistance, regaining the confident posture that must have intimidated boardrooms full of business executives. Yet with Camila, he remained open and surprisingly vulnerable. It was during a physical therapy session in the 4th week that things shifted irreversibly. Camila was guiding Daniel through stretches when he lost his balance. She caught him reflexively, her arms wrapping around his torso to steady him. They froze like that, her hands on his chest, his face inches from hers. Camila, he breathed, his voice rough with something that wasn't pain. We can't, she whispered, even as every cell in her body leaned toward him. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I'm imagining it and I'll never mention it again. She couldn't. The lie wouldn't form, because she did feel it. This impossible connection that had grown between a billionaire and a nurse from East LA, this thing that made no sense but felt more real than anything else in her life. I feel it, she admitted. But it's complicated, Daniel. Our worlds are so different. You live in houses like this. I live in a cramped apartment with 2 roommates. You go to galas and business dinners. I eat leftover pizza and work double shifts. How could this possibly work? Daniel's hands came up to frame her face, his touch impossibly gentle. Maybe it works because we see each other clearly. No illusions. No pretense. You know exactly who I am, not the magazine version or the business legend. Just Daniel. The man who tells terrible jokes and has nightmares about the accident, and who's learning that money can't buy the one thing he actually needs. What do you need? The question came out barely louder than a breath. Just you. Exactly as you are. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable. Soft at first, testing, asking permission. Camila's response gave him all the permission he needed. She'd never been kissed like this before, like she was precious. like she mattered more than anything else in the world. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, she felt tears on her cheeks. "I'm scared," she confessed. "I've never done this before. Any of this." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Are you saying you've never been in a relationship? Never even kissed anyone before right now?" "I told you, I kept everyone at distance. It was safer that way." Tenderness in his expression nearly undid her. "Then we'll take it slow. I'll teach you everything, Camila. Not just about relationships or physical intimacy, but about letting someone in. About trusting that not everyone leaves. And you can teach me how to feel again, how to live instead of just existing." "Dio?" Through her tears, she smiled. "Deal." When hearts build new foundations, the next morning brought sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling. Windows and a sensation Camila had never experienced before, waking up knowing someone cared about her in a way that went beyond duty or family obligation. Daniel had insisted she'd keep her own room, maintaining that boundary even as their relationship evolved into something neither could fully define yet. They spent the morning in physical therapy as usual. Each touch lingered longer. Each shared glance carried weight. Camila guided Daniel through exercises with professional efficiency, but when their eyes met, the air between them shifted into something electric and terrifying and wonderful all at once. "You're distracted," Daniel observed, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he completed a particularly difficult stretch. His recovery had been remarkable. Dr. Okonkwo had called it miraculous during their last checkup. The broken ribs were healed, the internal injuries resolved. He moved with increasing confidence, though Camila still watched him like a hawk for any signs of overexertion. "I'm not distracted. I'm focused," Camila insisted, making a note on his chart. "Your range of motion has improved by 15% this week, Camila."
Oh.
He caught her hand, pulling her attention away from the medical notes. "Look at me," she did, and found herself falling into those dark eyes that had first captivated her when he'd awakened in the ICU. "What? You don't have to be the nurse right now. We're past official hours. You can just be you." The permission to drop her professional mask felt both liberating and frightening. She'd spent so long hiding behind competence and clinical distance. "I don't know who that is when I'm not working. Then let me help you find out." Starting with lunch. Not as patient and caregiver, but as two people who enjoy each other's company. "What do you actually like to eat when nobody's watching?" The question was so simple, yet it hit something deep inside her. When was the last time anyone had asked what she wanted? "Tacos from this little truck near my old neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Just perfectly seasoned carne asada with fresh cilantro and onions. My mom used to take me there after particularly hard days. It became our tradition." Daniel stood slowly, testing his balance. "Then let's go. Right now, you're not cleared for long car rides yet. I'm cleared for anything that doesn't involve running marathons or cage fighting. Dr. Okonkwo said so herself. Come on, Camila. Take me to meet the real you, not just the stories you told me while I was in a coma." The drive back to East LA took 45 minutes in Daniel's understated but clearly expensive car. Camila watched him navigate traffic with easy confidence, one hand on the wheel, occasionally reaching over to rest on her knee when traffic stopped. The gesture was casual but intimate, and each time he did it, her heart performed acrobatics. "You're quiet," he observed, as they exited the highway into her old neighborhood. The streets here were narrower, buildings older, graffiti marking territory, boundaries invisible to outsiders but clear as day to anyone who'd grown up here. "I'm wondering if this is a mistake. Bringing you here? You stand out, Daniel. Expensive car? Nice clothes? People notice. People talk. Let them talk. I want to see where you came from. It's part of understanding who you are." Taco truck sat in its usual spot on the corner of 5th and Esperanza, unchanged from Camila's childhood. The smell of grilling meat and fresh tortillas hit her the moment she opened the car door, triggering a cascade of memories so powerful she had to steady herself against the vehicle. "You okay?" Daniel was beside her immediately, concern etched across his features. "Yeah, just haven't been back here since I started nursing school. Didn't realize how much I missed it." They ordered at the window carne asada for both of them, with extra lime for Camila because she liked the sharp citrus cut through the richness of the meat. While they waited, neighborhood kids played basketball on the cracked court across the street, their shouts and laughter creating a soundtrack of resilience. "Ms. Torres?" An older woman's voice cut through Camila's nostalgia. She turned to find Mrs. Delgado, her former neighbor, staring with wide eyes. "Me, Nina? Is that really you? And who is this handsome man?" Camila felt her cheeks heat. "Mrs. Delgado, this is Daniel." "Daniel, this is Mrs. Delgado. She used to babysit me when my mom worked night shifts." The older woman's sharp eyes assessed Daniel with the kind of scrutiny only protective community elders could manage. "Daniel what? You treating our Camila right? She's a good girl, works too hard, deserves someone who appreciates her." To his credit, Daniel didn't flinch under the interrogation. "Daniel Ashford, ma'am. And yes, Camila is extraordinary. She saved my life, actually. I'm trying to be worthy of that gift." Something in his sincerity must have satisfied Mrs. Delgado, because her severe expression melted into a warm smile. "Ashford, the developer? I saw your name on one of those buildings downtown. You built that community center in Boyle Heights, the one with the free medical clinic?" "I did. 3 years ago. It was important to me that the building served the neighborhood, not just occupied space in it." Mrs. Delgado nodded approvingly. "Good man. Camila, you bring him around for dinner sometime. Your mama should meet him properly." She patted Camila's cheek with weathered hands that smelled of the lavender lotion she'd used for decades. "You look happy, Mia. Happier than I've ever seen you. Hold on to that." After Mrs. Delgado left, they collected their tacos and found a bench near the basketball court. Camila watched Daniel take his first bite, anxiety and pride warring in her chest. This was her heritage, her history laid bare in a simple street taco. If he found it lacking, if he couldn't appreciate the beauty in this humble meal, then she'd know they were too different after all. Daniel closed his eyes, savoring the flavors. When he opened them again, they were bright with genuine pleasure. "This is incredible. Better than any Michelin-starred restaurant I've been to. There's soul in this food, love." Relief flooded through her. "My mom says that's the secret ingredient. You can taste when something is made with care versus when it's just transaction." She's right. Daniel wiped juice from his chin, completely unself-conscious. "Thank you for sharing this with me. For letting me into this part of your life." They ate in comfortable silence, watching the neighborhood move around them. Kids playing. Vendors calling out their wares. Abuelitas sitting on stoops, exchanging gossip. This was Camila's world, so different from Santa Monica's polish, yet no less valuable.
I want to do something," Daniel said suddenly, setting down his taco.
"I've been thinking about it for weeks, but I wanted to wait until I could bring you here, see this place, before I made a final decision." "Do what?" "Create an affordable housing development. Right here in East LA, not the kind that gentrifies and pushes people out. Real affordable housing, designed with community input, with units reserved for current residents so they're not displaced. Medical facilities on site. Educational resources. I've been working with lawyers and urban planners remotely. I want to build something that actually helps people like your family, like Mrs. Delgado, like everyone here who deserves stability and dignity." Camila stared at him, unable to process what she was hearing. That would cost millions. The profit margins would be terrible. Your investors would never approve, but I'll do it independently. I have personal wealth beyond the company. This isn't about profit, Camila. It's about legacy. What do I want to leave behind when I'm gone? Another generic luxury condo tower or something that actually matters? You taught me that. Your dedication to your patients, your commitment to helping people, even when it's thankless work, you showed me what real purpose looks like. Tears blurred her vision. Daniel, I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me. Use your connections here, your understanding of what the community actually needs. Let's build something together that reflects both our strengths, my resources, and your heart. She kissed him then. Right there on the bench with the neighborhood watching and the taste of tacos still on their lips. It was impulsive and public and completely unlike her usual careful self. But Daniel brought that out in her, the willingness to be spontaneous, to trust, to leap. When they pulled apart, someone whistled from across the street. A basketball bounced forgotten as the kids watched with delighted interest. Camila laughed, hiding her face against Daniel's shoulder while he grinned and waved at their audience. "Guess that cat's out of the bag," she murmured against his shirt. "Good. Let them see that I'm completely gone for you. I don't want there to be any doubt." The evening back at the Santa Monica house found them on the deck again. Watching the sunset paint the Pacific in shades of amber and rose, Daniel had his arm around Camila, and she leaned into his solid warmth, feeling safe in a way she'd never experienced before. "My contract as your nurse officially ends next week," she said quietly. "Dr. Okonkwo cleared you for full activities. You don't need medical supervision anymore." "No, but I need you. Not as a nurse, Camila. As my partner. In this housing project, in life, in everything, move in here permanently. Not in the guest suite, but with me." "Really with me?" The invitation hung in the air, massive and terrifying, and exactly what she wanted. "I've never lived with anyone before. Never shared space like that. What if I'm terrible at it? What if my habits drive you crazy? Then we'll figure it out together." That's what relationships are, right? Learning each other's rhythms, compromising, building something new from two separate lives. He turned to face her fully. "I know we've only known each other a couple months. I know by conventional standards, this is too fast. But Camila, I've lived 42 years mostly alone. I've had relationships that lasted years and never got below surface level. What we have is real. It's deep. And I don't want to waste time pretending it's anything less than extraordinary. My mom is going to think I've lost my mind. Then let's go tell her together. Right now. I should meet her properly anyway. Ask her permission to sweep her daughter off her feet." Ow. The idea was so old-fashioned and sweet that Camila laughed. "You want to ask my mother's permission? You're a 42-year-old billionaire. She's the woman who raised the person I love. Her opinion matters. So yes, I want to meet her properly and make it clear that my intentions are serious. Will you take me to her?" Love, he'd said, love. The word hung between them, huge and undeniable. Camila's heart hammered against her ribs. "You love me? Completely, utterly. In a way I didn't think I was capable of anymore. You broke through all my walls, Camila Torres. You taught me that life could be more than business and loneliness. How could I not love you?" "I love you too," she whispered, the words feeling strange and right on her tongue. "It terrifies me, but I do. I love you so much it feels like my chest can't contain it all." They drove back to East LA for the second time that day, this time to the small house where Camila's mother lived. Rosa Torres answered the door in her cleaning service uniform, clearly just home from work. Her eyes widened when she saw Daniel standing on her doorstep beside her daughter. "Mama, this is Daniel Ashford. The patient I told you about. We need to talk to you about something important." Rosa's protective instincts activated immediately. She ushered them inside, offering coffee and pan dulce while assessing Daniel with the same fierce scrutiny Mrs. Delgado had employed. Camila watched her mother take in the expensive clothes, the confident bearing, the way Daniel looked at her daughter like she was something precious. They sat around the small kitchen table, and Daniel did something Camila didn't expect. He spoke in fluent Spanish, addressing Rosa with formal respect. "Señora Torres, I know this is sudden, but I wanted to meet you properly and tell you my intentions toward your daughter. Camila saved my life, but beyond that, she's taught me how to live again. I love her. I want to build a future with her. And I promise you on my honor that I will spend every day being worthy of the trust you placed in her when you raised such an extraordinary woman." Rosa's stern expression cracked, emotion flooding her weathered face. She took both of Daniel's hands in hers, studying him intently. "You understand what you're asking? My daughter comes from nothing, but she is everything. You have money, power, status. Those things don't impress me. What matters is this: will you protect her heart? Will you honor her strength? Will you stand beside her when the world gets hard, not just when it's easy?" "Yes, Senora, to all of it. I will protect her heart because she holds mine. I will honor her strength because it saved me. And I will stand beside her always because I can't imagine my life without her in it anymore. Tears streamed down Rose's face. She pulled Daniel into a fierce hug, then reached for Camila, gathering them both in. Then you have my blessing. Both of you? Be happy. Build something beautiful together. Later, back at the Santa Monica house, Camila and Daniel stood on the deck under a canopy of stars. The ocean murmured its eternal rhythm below them, and everything felt possible. So what happens now? Camila asked, leaning back against Daniel's chest as his arms encircled her. Now we build. The housing development in East LA. Our life together. A future where I'm not just existing, and you're not just surviving. We create something neither of us could have alone. He pressed a kiss to her temple. I'll teach you about trusting someone with your whole heart. And you'll teach me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars but in moments like these. Deal. Camila turned in his arms, reaching up to cup his face. Deal. Though I think we'll be learning from each other for a very long time. I'm counting on it. Daniel smiled, and it transformed his entire face into something warm and open and alive. I'm counting on forever, actually. If you'll have me. Forever sounds perfect, Camila whispered before pulling him down into a kiss that tasted of promises and new beginnings. 6 months later, at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Esperanza housing community in East LA, Camila stood beside Daniel as he addressed the gathered crowd. Residents, city officials, and press all watched as he announced the project that would provide 200 affordable housing units with no displacement of current residents. This development represents more than buildings, Daniel said, his hand finding Camila's and squeezing. It represents what's possible when we choose people over profit, community over convenience. None of this would exist without the woman beside me, who taught me that true success is measured in lives touched, not bank accounts filled. This is just the beginning. The crowd erupted in applause. Mrs. Delgado dabbed at her eyes. Rosa Torres beamed with pride. And Camila felt something settle deep in her soul, the certainty that she'd found her place, her purpose, her home. Not in a location, but in the man whose hand she held, and the community they were building together that night. Back home because the Santa Monica house had truly become home now. Filled with Camila's books and Rose's cooking pots and photographs, documenting their blended lives, Daniel pulled out a small velvet box. I know we're not conventional, he said, dropping to one knee with a grin that held equal parts nervousness and joy. We're too fast by everyone else's standards. But Camila Torres, you taught me that the best things in life can't be scheduled or planned. They just happen when two people find each other and choose to be brave. Will you marry me? The ring was simple. Elegant and emerald, surrounded by small diamonds. Emerald for healing, Daniel explained. Because you healed me in every way that matters. Through happy tears, Camila pulled him up and kissed him with everything she had. Yes, absolutely yes. Forever, remember? Forever, he agreed, sliding the ring onto her finger. Starting right now. And in that moment, Camila understood that life wasn't about where you started or what resources you had. It was about choosing love over fear, connection over isolation, and courage over comfort. She'd been nervous once, uncertain if she belonged in Daniel's world, but he'd leaned close and taught her the most important lesson of all, that they weren't from different worlds at all. They'd simply been waiting to build a new world together. One where a nurse from East LA and a billionaire from Santa Monica could find each other and create something beautiful from their combined strengths. The journey ahead would have challenges. Their different backgrounds would create moments of misunderstanding. The press would scrutinize them. Society would question them. But none of that mattered. Because they had what mattered most: genuine love, mutual respect, and the commitment to face every obstacle side by side. As they stood together on the deck, the city lights of Los Angeles spreading before them like fallen stars, Camila knew she'd found something rarer than wealth or status. She'd found a partner who saw her completely, loved her deeply, and believed in building a future where their love could lift others up too. That was the real lesson Daniel had taught her. And she'd taught him in return that the best kind of love doesn't just transform to people. It radiates outward, touching everyone it reaches, creating ripples of hope that extend far beyond where they began, and so they began there forever. Two unlikely souls who'd found each other in a hospital corridor and chose to build something extraordinary from that chance encounter. Their story wasn't about a billionaire and a nurse. Not really. It was about two human beings who learned that the bravest thing anyone can do is open their heart and let someone teach them how to truly live.